Hello, everybody, and welcome to part three. Okay, part one of John J. Davis's extraordinary experience on the other side, and part two covers his experience, the most physical, extraordinary experience of the other side I've ever heard. And part two also covers some questions that we got into there, exploring some amazing concepts. And this is part three, where we get to go even further into his experience and soul transformative conversation. Welcome to Soul Spa University, where your souls can run free and your minds are free to expand. I love having you all here today, and I'm so grateful John is here today. But first, please don't forget to join our family by subscribing if you haven't already. Liking does a lot for me, you have no idea. And sharing is just, oh my God, I couldn't be more grateful. And if anybody gets anything out of anything, there is a donation link in the description box that illuminates me from the inside out of my soul mission if anybody ever donates at all. But in the meantime, I'm just glad and grateful everybody's here, and especially John, that you're still alive here to be in part three.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Thank you. Oh, best, best. Okay, John, you mentioned in parts one and two that you can do anything on the other side that you love doing on Earth. Can you, could you eat?
You know what? That's something that I didn't specifically ask that, but they told me that anything you like to do here, you can do there. So I'm assuming you still can. But our bodies are different. We aren't just orbs of energy. We actually have real substance. We all have bodies, and they're more real than our bodies here. One of the things that they showed me was that you can play sports. They showed me sports fields where you can play golf, you can rugby, you can do tennis, anything you want to do, you can. But your bodies they're not subject to getting injured. You can't get hurt. And so our bodies are real substance there. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
Oh, I was just hoping they had calorie free
Oh,
Twinkies.
that's right. That's right. About the about yeah, yeah. They probably do have smoothies and all that, but you don't have to eat to sustain yourself like you do here on Earth. Your body has to have nutrients here to generate cell growth and all that. But on the other side, our bodies aren't like that. You don't have to eat, you don't have to sleep, you don't have to drink, but you still can. So I don't know. That's something I've always been interested in because people have asked me who love to cook, can you still cook over there? And I think the answer is, I think it's yes, you still can. But that's something I didn't think of asking when I was there.
Yeah, that's
My,
interesting. Yeah. Um, okay. Now, you mentioned, guys, he mentions in part one and two, there was a place where you could see life on other planets.
yep.
Could you see like them living their lives?
I couldn't.
Okay.
The When I was in that planetarium building where he was showing me all the different planets, the millions of different planets, it was like I was looking at them from orbit.
Okay.
And it was too high for me to see any particular life forms, but I could see the topography. I could see the planets that had oceans, the planets that had, mountains or deserts. I could see that, but I wasn't able to get close enough to see what life forms were like. But I knew somehow that all these planets had life forms, and you could have lifetimes on these different planets, that they were unlimited. But my it was almost like looking at Earth from a telescope, or looking at the moon. You could see the topography, but I couldn't get close enough to see, like, if they had cities, or what the towns or the villages were like. I couldn't see that kind of detail. And I think because there probably just wasn't that much time.
Okay. Did you see any alien bodies up in the other side?
Nope, they all look like us. And I don't know if that's because every planet has their own other side,
Mhm.
That I don't know. And that's something I've always wondered since I had my experience.
Yeah.
Or is the other side, because you would think that the other side that I saw, that there would be aliens,
Mhm.
but everybody looked like us.
Mm.
Now that's not to say that that's not true, because I only saw one particular area of the other side, just a small part of how vast and large it really was. So there could be aliens there. I just don't know, and that's something I've thought before. Has does other planets have their own other side, or is there only just one? And that I don't know, and it experience with that.
Yeah, or maybe like, are we physical on the other side?
You mean like what do you mean by physical?
I can't help but wonder, like, if maybe because like physicality is an illusion, that on the other side, since we're not technically physical, it's like you see energy, and what you see as energy is what's familiar to whoever's seeing. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, all I can tell you is the people that I saw, like the girl that was in that video in that library watching that battle take place, she looked just like I'm looking at you. Just like the girl that
wow.
was in that castle who walked up to me, she looks just like you. I mean, I
Yeah,
could see her, she had her hair, I could see what she was wearing, I could see her physicality, but
interesting.
it's different than our bodies are here on Earth. They're better. They don't get sick, they don't age, they don't get cancer. They're like a body would be here, but it would be the optimum perfect body. And the only way I can describe it would be like energy, like, but it's so dense and so compacted that it has form and substance. And everything on the other side that I saw, I was able to touch. Like that, like where the tunnels were in that orientation center. When I looked at that man, I touched the marble and it was solid. Just like when we were, if you were to touch your dining room table, it's solid like that. It's still, everything is still solid there, but it's more so, it's that others, the other side is the real reality. Whereas life on earth, this experience is more like the illusion. It's kind of like the shadow world. It's not our real existence, because we're only here temporarily. Because that's a question that I had too. What is the physicality like? But they look just like we do. The bodies are, I know that it's not physical. We don't have like bones, we don't have blood on the other side, but the bodies are perfect and they look just like we do. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Now, interesting talking about other beings and other life on other planets, and
Mhm.
other lifetimes, because I always had this theory about stars, that, we all love to stare at the stars. And I'm like,
Yeah.
at first my theory was, and then after first hearing your experience, it not only did it infused or triggered the truth into it, but expanded even more. So at first, my theory was, okay, stars. We love looking at them because in every lifetime we've had on Earth, as far as I knew at the time, um, we always had the stars. So no matter where we lived on the planet, we always could look at the stars. So that's
Mhm.
what's always like familiar to our soul, to the expansion of divinity that is true to us. And then
Sure.
after hearing your experience, I was like, it's even better because it's also when we're living on other planets, other lifetimes, we see the damn stars too. So it's
Yep.
even more just like, remember, you're so much more than this 1 second in this one little identity that we signed up for.
Yep. Absolutely. And you know what's amazing is I tell people sometimes that I love to study astronomy. And what's so extraordinary is the distance that really exists between galaxies and the different stars. It is so vast that our human minds just can't grasp how extensive it really is. And I was reading something just the other day about the distance of the Milky Way galaxy, and it was saying that even if we had a ship that could travel in space at the speed of light, it would take 90,000 years to get to the other end just of our galaxy. And I
Wow.
read that twice. I thought, is that really what it said? 90,000 years to get to the other end of our gal. I can't even comprehend how large that is.
Oh my God.
And every star that we see with our naked eye is part of the Milky Way galaxy. We can only see our own galaxy. It's only through telescopes like the Hubble and now the James Webb telescope that we can see other galaxies and
Wow.
how far away they really are.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just when you think about it like that, you think, I cannot wait to get back to the other side, because
Mm,
then you can learn all of this. You have a chance to grasp all of it. Whereas here on Earth, our minds are finite.
yeah.
We just don't have the capability of grasping all that really is out there. This is
Yes.
extraordinary.
Yes. I remember as a child, like before, like I'd be like laying awake in bed, just you know how they teach you in church, like God was always there. He was
Yeah.
always there before you,
Yep.
right? And like he's
Yeah.
just always there. And I remember like my brain trying so hard to exercise, like trying to grasp, like not trying to grasp it, but some things, trying to get that, like always
Yeah.
there. So speaking of always there, you mentioned that we're there for eternity, right?
Mhm.
On the other side. So by that, do you think technically we're there right now?
I don't know. That's something I've heard people say. And the only thing that I got really from the other side when I was there is that we never die. We die on Earth. Our bodies die here on Earth because they're not permanent.
Yeah.
But on the other side we are permanent. You never die. It's kind of a hard thing to try to think of in terms of we always were, but there had to have been a point of creation. And I think about this often, like what was that like
Yeah.
when we were created? It must have been eons ago where we were all created, but we only experience death on Earth. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we do come in to learn what it's like to be a finite individual.
Mhm.
But just because our bodies die on Earth at a certain time, we don't, our soul doesn't ever die. It's eternal.
Yeah. Um, and it's interesting because they come out with things now to try to extend life more and more. And part of me is,
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
like
I'm the same way. Yep.
like I love them expanding their consciousness and going there, but then there's a part of me that's like, guys, do we really want to live till 200? Like, come on. Like it's kind of a
Yeah.
relief, like that, but anyway, I don't want to. So speaking of weird thoughts that like I just had, say someone intentionally, and we guys, we advise against this completely and utterly and totally because we're only here, like you said, for 1 second and then we're at the party, right? But say someone did intentionally sort of uh pass on. Do you think there's a like do you think they go there, or there's like a part of there they go? Did you know anything about that at all?
Yeah. Yeah. I've had experience with that. I had a cousin who took her life, and I had one of my dear friends take his life. And what happens to them is everybody goes to the other side, and they're especially given counseling. They on the other side, they have what are called healing centers, and that's where people go who take their lives. They're
Okay.
not punished.
Mm-hmm.
God doesn't send people to hell if they take their lives. The idea of hell, like we think of it
Mm-hmm.
from the biblical standpoint, doesn't even exist.
Good.
So yeah. So when someone takes their life, they're given counseling,
Mm-hmm.
and they're giving all kinds of love and all kinds of support, all kinds of help, but there's no negative consequence. For them, though, they have the opportunity, if they want to, they can come back
Oh, good.
to try to finish what they set out to learn,
Yeah.
because they took their life prematurely, so they did not have the opportunity to complete the lessons that they wanted to learn when they came into that life. Or for whatever reason, they decided that they couldn't stay. Like my cousin,
Mhm.
she lost her husband. Really tragic event. It was a blood clot. It got lodged in his lung, and they couldn't revive him, and he passed. She had a really horrible time trying to live through that, and everyone tried to help her. They got her into counseling. They had family close by, and she just couldn't seem to get past it. And horrible depression. And she ended up taking her life. And she'll have the opportunity to come back again to try to experience and learn what she wanted to learn. But there is absolutely no form of punishment. There's no judgment. In fact, when you do your life review, nobody actually judges you.
Mhm.
Your guide is with you, but if anybody judges your life, it's you. You judge your own life.
Mhm.
Did you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? Did you learn what you wanted to learn? And sometimes I think to myself, there are so many people that really do take their lives.
Mhm.
Why is that?
Mhm.
On the other side, everything is perfect and you just come to earth to learn. But I think sometimes people might take on too much,
Mhm.
because I was reading a statistic back from 2017, and I think it came out of the World Health Organization, and it said that in 2017, 800,000 people across the globe took their lives through suicide. So
Wow.
I started thinking on a really broad scale, what is causing that? Is it because people come in wanting to take on too much? Because life here, it can be really brutally hard.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are there are circumstances people go through that are just, you just can't imagine how they make it.
Yeah.
So sometimes I wonder, are they just taking on too much when they come into life? That I don't know, but I
Yeah.
do know that they're not punished. They're not punished. There's no sense of guilt or anything like that. But they have the opportunity to come back and to do it again and to try to learn what they wanted to in that lifetime. But that's a great question. I
Yeah.
thought about that too.
Yeah. And just remember, guys, like he said, on the other side, we're only here for 1 second. So stay the other second. It might seem like a long illusion to us, but we're only here for 1 second. Then we're at the party. And when you're at the party, you're going to be so proud that you stuck it through here because the amazing lessons that came out from you doing your natural life. So please stay. You can only be this identity once. So just do it. Just do it. Just do it. It'll be fine. Okay. Almost done
It's a
with
good point.
class. Like we're all
Yeah.
walking each other home. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep.
um,
Absolutely.
have you heard of the term twin flame?
You know what? I never actually have heard that before. No.
Okay. So I think when they mention soulmates on the other side,
Mhm.
there's been this recent phenomenon with people lately. Uh, I'll get into it more when we're off the recording because I wish I could have you for another recording, but you have a life. But
Yeah.
basically, yeah, it's a whole phenomenon out there where it's like now we kind of feel like our cousin can be our soulmate, our best friend could be our soulmate, they could be karmic soulmates, but this twin flame thing is, I think, what you've been mentioning, that was the soulmate on the other side, where there's one person
Yeah.
for everybody, and basically it's like yeah, you're not really supposed to incarnate at the same time. Lately, they've been, and it's been tragic. So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll get into that. We'll get into that after the recording. But it's to learn lessons, and we're just not supposed to record at the same time. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
we are because we are, but it's just like, oh my god. So anyway, onto another question. Um, so yeah, so um, sorry, this one threw me off.
Okay.
Alternate realities. Anything on that?
I don't know anything about that. I have heard from others that alternate realities are real. I don't know. And I've even heard people say that there are alternate universes,
Uh-huh.
but I have no experience with that at all. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Now, okay, do you have any insight, and if not, it's totally fine, with anyone that's, say, struggling with a decision? that like once they make it, they can't go back. Did you, say in life ever struggle with a decision, but maybe grasp some knowledge from up there or something like that? Like, do you have any sort of insight? And if not, no problem. It's always worth asking.
That's okay. That's okay. I don't have any specific knowledge about that, but I can tell you something that has helped me. And I do think that I have received guidance from the other side by doing this, but meditation,
Uh,
it's something that we hear a lot about. And I never meditated until I had my near-death experience. So I set aside 20 minutes every day to meditate. I'll put on some nice, quiet, relaxing music, and I will go into a meditative state. And it's how I talk to God that way. And I ask for any information, any knowledge that I can share with others or that will help me in particular areas of my life that might be problematic. And I do believe I've gotten guidance from people from the other side, but it's only been through meditation. And it's hard. It's kind of it's a freeing kind of an exercise, because what I'll go into a meditative state, try to quiet down my thoughts, and just ask for a message. And sometimes I get things and I think, wow, that didn't come from my own mind. That must have
mhm.
come from someone from the other side. Because I talk to the other side all the time. Now that I know after my experience, I know that they can hear us. I talk to them all the time. I have, aunts and uncles who have crossed, grandparents and friends. I've had some dear friends who have crossed over, and I talk to them all the time, especially when I'm driving.
Yeah.
People think I'm crazy, but that's when I talk to them when I drive. So meditation, I think, is a great tool.
Yeah, I have the same experience. I talk to people all the time. At one point, most of my friends I felt were on the other side,
Yeah, you probably talk to your mom too.
huh?
You probably talk to your mom.
All the time. And I swear, like, I get answers. And half the time I'm like, so you can't help but wonder, is this my imagination?
I
Um,
know. Yeah, I know.
and then, but something will happen that I know it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like somehow physical reality will show me, like, as I'll randomly get like a message, and then all of a sudden I'll see on the oatmeal container like my mom's birthday,
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, and it's not like the message came from my imagination either, because it's something I would have never predicted. So it's like, oh, that
yeah,
person's going to cancel in 5 minutes, right? So
yeah,
don't eat this or something weird, and then like lo and behold, she canceled in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, and it was not predictable because her and I were just on the phone. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Things like
Yeah.
that. Okay,
You know,
so
you know what? It's interesting about that is a lot of times it's always mundane things that they'll
yes.
help you with. Like they'll help you find your car keys, but they won't give you any information about specific life decisions that are important. They don't seem to, they seem to help you with just the little things that don't really matter that come up. And when you have something really major, they don't, they don't seem to be that influential because it's part of your test. It's part of why you're
Oh,
here.
that's interesting. That's good to know in case I feel like I can't get an answer. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of times I do get guidance, but I think it's because I kind of open it to angels. Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? I'm just like, guys, and I will get it. But because we're humans, sometimes it takes me a lot, right?
I know. Me too. Me
Yeah.
too.
And then that whole establishing communication thing, like I'm sure you've done this, but I've assigned numbers to my parents, a certain number sequence. They'll come
Oh,
through like you're mentioning mundane times. They'll come through at the most random times that I'm like, like, but when I
yeah.
needed them, when I wanted them right then and there, it's like, hey, now, right? But then like it'll be like me and my partner watching something and it's constantly coming through. And he jokes like,
Yeah.
oh, they really like this show. You know what I mean? But it's like they like every show. It's always when we're
Yeah.
watching TV or like randomly on the clock. And I'm like, and to be honest, I can't give them attention at that moment. Do you know what I mean? It's always at that kind of
Right.
moment where I'm like,
You're
where
doing
were
something.
you 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Huh?
Where were you when I was actually meditating? Why couldn't you come through then? I
Yeah,
know
it's
exactly. Yeah.
so weird, right? Okay, so I'm curious. You mentioned the castle, and where. where you could see parts of history. And you mentioned the Akashic Records building. And I was
Yeah.
curious of the difference between the two.
From my experience, the building that I think may have been the Akashic Records, that was a place you could go to, a library, to learn everything. Everything was in that building.
Yeah.
Whether you wanted to learn about science or medicine or humanities or photography, everything, like it was a compilation of everything God knew. Like his mind is in that library. Whereas the castle, that was very specific to a certain time period on Earth's history. So you would go there if you wanted to see what castles looked like in medieval Europe.
Oh, that's
In that,
awesome.
yeah, so it's just one specific type of learning,
I
like
like
one
that.
topic. And the
Yeah.
girl that was there, her what she loved more than anything was to study medieval Europe.
Yeah.
That's what she loved. So she probably had a lifetime during that time, but her whole emphasis was to learn about medieval Europe. So
Hmm.
there was a difference in terms of the Akashic Records was a knowledge of everything, but the castle was just specifically to that one area of Earth's history, that time period.
A question just came to me. And first of all, that's amazing because I'm very drawn to different eras all the time. And I'm like,
Oh,
this
me too. Yeah,
privilege
me
type
too.
thing. Yeah. So it's interesting. But so I have a question. Um, you mentioned there's no hell, and that's such a relief. I kind of always thought that. But I'm sure many people want to know, well, where do people like Hitler go?
Exactly. Yep,
Mhm.
that's something I've thought about too.
Yeah.
Here's what I can tell you. God, when you have a near-death experience and you're on the other side, you can feel God's love, and you just know. I don't know how, but you just know that God didn't create a hell
Mhm.
to throw souls into. There's no burning lake of fire that God sends you into because you don't believe in Jesus. There are millions of people who've never even heard of Jesus. So the idea that you have to believe in Jesus to be saved,
Yeah.
I don't even think Jesus would say that.
Right.
I don't
Right.
think I don't think he even believes that. I think he probably thinks, if anything, that whatever religion you want to believe that leads you closer to God, that's the right one for you.
Mhm.
But there are levels on the other side, and people like Hitler are they go to what are called the lower levels.
Mhm.
And those are lower levels where people are less developed.
Okay. Yeah.
And what happens, the life review serves a couple of different purposes. The first one is that you get to have the opportunity to see if you learned what you wanted to learn, what you came into life for, what your major goals were. But the second purpose of the life review is you feel what other people felt about your lifetime. For example, if you hurt somebody, if you murdered someone,
Mhm.
if you caused somebody pain,
Mhm.
you feel what they felt like.
Mhm.
So people like Hitler, that soul has to experience what his victims felt. So that
Wow.
that
Yes.
that's how they learn.
Yes.
The whole idea is to learn and to grow.
Yes.
And God doesn't punish or banish anybody. The lower levels are what they create for themselves. And
Yes.
those particular souls who are less developed, that's where they go. And as you go through different lifetimes and learn, you can advance your development,
Mhm.
advance your growth. So that's a great question. That's something that I have always wondered about that too.
And
And
it's
it's
good for, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
And it's good for people that are, God forbid, they're thinking of, intentionally passing over. They will have to face a life review of all the pain that that caused somebody else.
Yes.
That's why it's good to hang in there, guys. You're more loved than you realize, and either way, God and the angels love you. And like, we're there in 1 second, guys. We're almost done with camp, but you can't end it yourself. That's up to nature.
And I like to use the metaphor of a storm. The worst storm, behind that storm, the sun is always shining, and every storm passes by, and it will get better. I remember when I went through that depression after I had my experience, I thought of I thought of suicide also.
Mhm.
I just could not believe how I was going to make it here. But
Yes.
you just have to do your best every day. You do your best, you work on yourself, you get better. Even if it's just 1% every day, you make steps, you make progress along the way. And eventually that storm does pass. And on the other side of that storm, you have your learning and your growth. And that's what you take with you. The only thing you take with you when you pass from this world is the love you shared and the person that you became.
Mhm.
That goes with you.
Mhm.
There's a wonderful quote that I love to tell people from Denzel Washington. You know, the actor?
Yes.
He said, "You'll never see a U-Haul behind a hearse
Mhm.
because you don't take anything with you. The only thing you take is what you've learned and the love you shared.
Yeah.
That goes with you, but nothing material goes with you."
Oh, I have chills. He's from my hometown. I love him.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, Mount
I just love him. He's the neatest guy.
Yeah, he's so deep. Um, so okay, so 7-minute warning from Zoom, but
Okay.
I'm gonna try to fit in some more things before we get kicked off. Um, has any more come out on your experience to yourself since?
You know, not really. I have always wanted to get more information because I have so many questions.
Mhm.
So many questions I have. And one of the questions I have that gnaws at me the most
Mhm.
is when I was in that orientation center, when people come through those tunnels, how do they know who's going to come through? How do they know when a person's time is up?
Mhm.
Because on these marble tables where these counselors were sitting,
Mhm.
nobody had like computers. There was no paperwork. I mean, how would they know when someone's coming through?
Mhm.
So I have more questions now than I did then. And I've never had anything else happen except for my father-in-law when he came to me in that dream to tell me he was okay.
Mhm.
But I've never had anything else. I didn't come back with any psychic ability. I don't have any new tools, but I've always had so many questions
Mhm.
that I have more questions than I have answers.
Maybe they know because, like you said, your guide or your guardian angel, the one that's kind of like, I don't want to say in charge of you in this life, but always sort of has their eye on you or always with you,
Yeah.
So in that way, that one always knows. And maybe our loved ones kind of always have a little kind of globe near them where they could kind of look and peer in and do
It's
whatever.
yeah, it's something like that. They have some kind of an ability where they can always look in and see us.
Yeah.
We don't have that ability. We don't have that on Earth, but they
Yeah.
do. They do have that ability from their side.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I did hear of an NDE where somebody's family kept being like, "You're not supposed to be here yet. What are you doing? You're not supposed to be here."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but no one,
I'm always on YouTube. I love to see other people's near death experiences
yeah,
because there's always so much to learn. There's always so much more. My experience didn't cover everything. It just covered a small part. I'm just one piece of the puzzle.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's see. Any more? Because we have 5-minute warning. Let's see here. Okay, do you still remember it as clearly as you did when it first happened?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
Wow.
I think that has to be a gift from God. Because like we mentioned earlier, I don't have a very good memory. Like I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but I remember that experience with every single detail, even to the point of what people said to me. Like that guy that was in the planetarium. You know,
Uh-huh.
I remember exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Every detail. I remember what my guide told me. He was in my left ear telling me everything I was seeing, everything I was experiencing, and the reason for all these different buildings, what they were for, and the learning that goes on and the development, the growth, the knowledge that God seemed to hardwire into all of us the gift we all have gifts, but the wanting to learn, always
Yeah.
have that. We always want to learn more. We always want to develop and continue growing.
Mhm.
And we do that on the other side too. And that's one of the main reasons we come here.
Yeah, through the contrast, we're growing.
Yeah. Yep.
So guys, remember to stick it through these storms because the gems that come out of it from your soul are eternal. And
Absolutely. That's a
eternal.
beautiful way to say it. That's exactly correct.
Um, do you think any of it was blocked from you?
Yeah. I think the part where I was in that building where we plan our lifetimes, I wasn't able to read my scroll.
Okay.
They wouldn't let me, because that would probably interfere with what I came here to learn. And we also test ourselves. There are a lot of things that we come into life as tests to see how we're going to do. Will you respond to that person in love? Will you be kind to that person? And we always test ourselves. And if you look at it, it's one of the most sublime kind of tests when you come into a lifetime, because you don't have the benefit of remembering where you're from. It's almost like you mentioned, you alluded to earlier, that when you get back, you'll be so proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really true, especially here on earth. And that's why they have such a big reunion, is you're so proud of yourself that you survived, that you went through it, you went through the hard times, you actually had the courage to come here, intentionally put yourself in a tough situation, in a tough spot, but you didn't give up. You
Yes.
worked through it. You worked through it. You soldiered on. You did your best. And
Yeah.
when you pass from this life and you go back home again, you have that new learning with you, and you have that satisfaction that, you know what? I did do my best. I tried. I did my best. And this is what I learned. And that will always be with you for eternity.
Yes. Yes. So guys, we only have less than like a minute or so to this before it cuts us off, and then John, I'll see you soon.
Okay.
But yeah, so John put it amazingly, guys. Through these storms, through everything, like whoever's experiencing depression or anything like that right now, remember that time is an illusion. When you're experiencing that depression, it warps your mental to make you feel like you're in it forever. Know that it will pass. Every storm will pass. Know that you have something to look forward to when it happens naturally for you. And like he said, when you get to the other side, these eternal gems, it's going to be like eternal Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate, where what you earned here as a result of getting through it, as a result of helping people, as a result of it, whatever the case is, you might think you're not helping anybody, but as a collective, you are. We are all connected, and we're actually getting kicked off now. But I hope you enjoyed this amazing 3-part series with John. Any lasting words, John, before we get kicked off?
Just to have hope, because there's a reason for all of this.
Yeah.
Never give up. Just do your best, and I can guarantee you, when you leave this lifetime, you'll be so proud of how you did, and you'll always have that information with you. And God is real, and his love is eternal.
I love it. I love it. I love you guys so much. I hope you got a lot out of this, and see you next time.